let's hope Swami will guide us through this. So we'll continue our prayers, Uncle. So please let us know how things go.
Sure. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. With that, I'll hand it over to you, Sister Shraddha and Sai Swarup.
Yeah, Sai Ram, Brother Sai Ram to all. Yeah, so continuing with chapter 9, Raja Vidya Gusha, Raja Vidya Yoga. Today I'm explaining about verse 5. Verse 5, Nacha Matsani Bhutani Pashyame Yogam Aishwaryam Bhuta Brahna Cha Bhutosto Mamatma Bhuta Bhavanaha Nacha Matsani Bhutani Pashyame Yogam Aishwaryam Bhuta Brahna Cha Bhutosto Mama Atma Bhuta Bhavanaha. So here, I am the Bhuta Brit, he is saying, one who sustains everything. If we translate, Mama Atma means myself, Bhutana Bhavanaha, give rise to all beings, creator of everything. Nacha Bhuta Sthanaha. So, but I am not existing, I am not existent, depend on them. I am the source of all, but I exist independent of everything. This is the translation. If we look at the word by word meaning, na means never, cha means and, matsthani means abide in me, Bhutani means all living beings. Pasha means behold. Pasha means what we experience, what we see. Me means my. Yogam Aishwaryam means divine energy. So in the last 2 verses we came to know Maya Yoga and Maya Shakti and Jiva Shakti. Here in this verse, Lord Shri Krishna is explaining Yoga Shakti or about Yoga Aishwaryam, divine energy. Bhuta Bhrit, the sustainer of all living beings. Na means never. Et means Cha means at. Bhuta Staha, dwell in me. Mama means ma. Atma means self. Bhuta Bhavanaha, the creator of all beings. So I'll just read out translation. The living beings do not abide in me. Behold the mystery of my divine energy. Although I am the creator, sustainer of all living beings, I am not influenced by them or by the material nature. So, Lord Krishna is saying, everything is created by me, and the world. World and all material world, living beings, everything is created by. I am independent of that. I won't abide in them. He is saying that one. So, Swami says the Divyatma Swarupalo, I am in you. This contradicts in this verse. I am independent of that. Lord Shri Krishna is saying. But sometimes Swami says that I am in you. So it is contradicting here. So we can see how it is different. So Krishna, all beings are in me. The shloka, all beings are not in me. This shloka tells all beings are not in me. So we'll resolve at the end of this verse. So one angle, existent world and beings are in me. In another angle, seemingly the existent world and beings are not in me. So he is saying in this verse, he is independent of everything. So, Mithya means lower order is called as Mithya. Apparently, apparently real. We may see it as real, like a dream. We experience fear, everything. but it is not real. So same, it is mithya. If God here saying he's Shri Krishna says in some verses that he is in all beings, but that is mithya, like a dream. Yeah, factually non-existent, anything capable of invoking response, but also disappears upon waking up of higher angle. So like if we compare dream, we get frightened, everything, the experience is real, but when we wake up we'll come out of that dream. So it is something like that, we can compare with that, that he exists in all beings. It is something like that. You can't say it is not there because it frightens. Can't say it is there because not seen from higher angle. So yeah, nacha matsani bhutani pashyame yogam aishwaryam. May you appreciate my higher yoga reality called Paramarthika Brahman. May you know from higher yoga reality the lower reality is non-existent. But from Jivatma point of view, the empirical reality is seemingly existent. So, if you appreciate God's higher nature as the only Satyam, the being are Mithya, not to be counted, therefore, not really in me. I myself am the creator of the beings and the sustainer of the beings. I am not in the beings which are not really countable. I am independent, Satyam. So he is saying that he is a super soul. His power and his divine energy exist in us. He won't exist in us. So sometimes world also world will be destroyed. He is a creator and destroyer. When he still exists, and everything will be vanished. So he is independent of everything. He won't dwell in us. He is independent of everything. If we take example, like here Yoga Maya and yeah, Aishwaryam. If we say Yoga Maya and wait, Yoga Shakti and Aishwaryam. So Yoga Shakti is to see one in all. So God, we can say that God is the thing exists in everything. That is Yoga Maya. Aishwarya means to see many in one. So if some guests come to our house, we show our house, we show our factory, maybe where we are working, everything. So he says, when guests appreciate, oh great, you have so many things. Oh yeah, it is. This is my house, this is my car, this is my factory, and all. So here Aishwaryam, to see many in one. So this is the example. Yoga Maya means we say that in everything the God is there. So that is Yoga Shakti. This is Maya Shakti. Okay. Yeah. He's in again. I'll repeat again. He is independent of everything. When the world is recreated after yes, after when world is recreated, he still exists and create it again. So God is independent of everything. The super soul energy is in everything. Material thing, Maya Shakti, material world also, in the all living beings also. He does not abide in us. His energy, super soul energy, exists in us. This is what the verse summary. I'll just. I am the Bhuta breath, one who sustains everything. Mama Atma, myself, Bhuta Bhava. Bhavanaha gives rise to all beings, creator of everything. Bhutana cha Bhutasthaha, sthana, but I am not existent, dependent on them. I am the source of all, but I exist independent of everything. So, in the ocean, if yeah, outside on the top, waves may exist. If we go down, there will not be waves. Similarly, on the top, we may see that in everything God exists, but His power exists in all of us. That is what meaning. Any questions? I think sorry sir, the last Vahini Satsang, what you told, it was something similar, right?
Yes, yes, Andy. I think it was something related to delusion and all those things. So I think it actually came into kind of related aspect.
Yes.
And actually, even the one before that, that was a little bit related as well. There was a topic, believe that he is the cause and all, it is all his play, where Swami gives the example, various examples like cloth and thread and all those things. So will be somewhat related to that. Everything is different from him, but actually, without he does not need all the others to exist, but all those are just an aspect of him. Something like that will come.
Yeah.
Sai Ram,
Sairam uncle.
if I may just, comprehensively say it in one sentence, I would say something like this. The pure and supreme consciousness or the awareness, divine and eternal, is the substratum. Just like the whole ocean is the substratum for all the waves and all the beings in the ocean. Continuing, this substratum sustains and illumines the entire panorama of the changeable plurality. Let me talk about this panorama of the changeable plurality. Unity is what we already addressed in the first part of the statement of the pure consciousness or the divinity. The plurality is the one subject showing through all objects in the world. That's the plurality, which keeps changing with the time and in the process of life, needs, wants, and things like that in the world. That is one way I would like to summarize the abstract understanding of the Yogam Aishwaram. Yogam is the what Swami refers to as the unity in divinity, and Aishwaram is what I just expansively told in that one sentence of the pure supreme consciousness. Divine and eternal is the substratum. That is the Aishwaram. I will stop here. Sairam, I think Sharda Hatti has done an exceedingly marvelous job of handling this complex understanding carried through by Krishna in this verse or shloka 5. Nacha matsthani bhutani pashya me yogam aishwaram bhuta bhrunna cha bhutastho mamatma bhuta bhavana. That is the bhavana of bhuta bhavana of the Atma as the indweller of all the objects, and yet is not affected by the objects so as to be lured by one's senses as a worldly person might do. So that is also another Aishwaram or Aishwaryam of the Supreme Consciousness. Sai Ram.
Sairam. Yeah, like last verses, Maya Shakti, the material energy of God is called as Maya Shakti, and the soul Jiva Shakti. In this verse, Yoga Shakti. Yeah, to see and Aishwaram. These are the important words. You nicely explained, Uncle. It was more clear. Sairam.
Sai Ram.
So here, the God may be like this. He won't abide in us. We can be compared to dream, like experience and everything will be real. But when we wake up, we'll come to know it was a dream. Something like his Maya Shakti and the Maya Shakti, Jiva Shakti exist, but he won't abide in us. He's independent of everything. He is the creator, sustainer. Yeah, Sai Swarup, if no questions, if no one wants to add anything, we can continue.
Sure, Andy. We'll give a couple of minutes and then I'll start with my presentation.
Yeah, sure.
So Sai Swarup will be continuing on chapter 13.
Yes, uncle. The last part of chapter 13 and the first topic of chapter 14.
Thank you.
Sign up.
Sai Ram.
Swami gave the example of the true train and the true compartments to differentiate between artharthi and jignasu and jnani, the four types of devotees. And then Swami talked about how the wise person are the people who actually experience that everything is Vasudeva, and Vasudeva is all this. And Swami also mentioned how only the wise people will be able to realize that other people are just charlatans and people who are trying to pretend to be wise but not actually wise. And many people around the world are currently doing those kinds of worldly kind of satsangs which are not actually spiritual. And Swami also emphasizes on how we have to clearly differentiate between such people and actual wise people. And Swami says, so the last two the last end of the topic comes here. Swami says, in the Gita, Krishna declared Vasudeva is all this, Vasudeva has sarvam, to be the king of mantras, just to counteract such pseudo wise people whose emergence he anticipated. That one mantra is sufficient to save all mankind. This is his indirect gift. Consider it as such and concentrate on it and its meaning. That's the highest good, the highest goal. The 6 Sanskrit letters can alone make human lives worthwhile. So here Swami says that it's like the Mula mantra or the king of the mantras, Vasudeva Sarvam, so that we'll be able to counteract such pseudo-wise people who pretend to be wise and who give all those satsangs and all those kinds of things. But Swami has already anticipated in the Dwapara Yuga. Lord Krishna had anticipated that, and he gave us this mantra called Vasudeva Sarvam. So Swami says that it is Lord Krishna's indirect gift. That is, we have to concentrate on the meaning of the actual, what it embodies, what the mantra actually tells us, so that we can actually get the good of it. So Swami says, without the inner ever-present experience of those words, there are many who have named themselves great soul, preceptor of the world, Bhagavan, realized sage, wise one, free from attachment to the sensory world, bliss-filled Ananda, etc. And who, alas, through counterfeit, receive currency among people as genuine. Though counterfeit, receive currency among people as genuine. No one conferred these titles on them. They were selected and assumed by their present owners and worn as plumage to catch the people's eye. So here Swami says, such people give them all kinds of titles like Shri and Bhagavan and realized souls and like Ananda and all those titles, and all these are just like Swami talks about how a peacock has its plumage. So it's just like that. It's just to attract all the people so that they can take more out of them. And Swami says they are not genuine, and the glamour wears out soon enough. The exterior is a renunciation, sannyasa, but the interior is too full of desires. Outwardly, the form is yoga, but inwardly they suffer from disease or roga. Their names all speak of bliss, but they roam around in the alleys. Their words are honey, but their acts are spoony and often zany. A householder who is immersed in the daily duties of stage of life is far better spiritually than these dressed up specimens of renunciation and yoga. So here Swami says these people take up the ochre robe and all those things. They pretend to be sannyasi and they pretend to have given up every desire that of the world, and but actually they are full of desires. And Swami says outwardly they are yogis, they look like yogis, but they are actually rogis, are people who suffer from disease. And they all speak about bliss, but they actually roam around looking for some kind of material accomplishment or money or fame and all those things. And Swami even goes on to say that a grihastha, a householder who is actually performing his daily duties together, like in a controlled and proper manner, is actually far better spiritually compared to these kinds of people who actually dress up and pretend to be yogis and sannyasis. So the chief reason for the decline of the culture in India, of its ancient way of life and its moral rectitude, is the evil perpetrated by such fakes. Faith in God has declined for the same reason. People advise renunciation and aspire for the senses. They glorify morality and operate through hatred. This behavior cuts at the very root of renunciation, and they inevitably rush towards doom. Where words and deeds are not coordinated, there is no trace of truth. So here Swami again says that the decline of our culture, of our Bharatiya Samskriti and the way of life that we have, and the moral values that we always had, is just because of such kind of people and all the kind of the rubbish things that they perpetrate. And Swami says even faith, the decline of faith in God, like all the modern, like all even my peers in office and in our colleges and in our own schools, that in my generation, people actually think for some reason that it is cooler to say that we are agnostics or we are atheists, and that has become a trend just because of people like these. And all these kinds of negative aspersions that they cast on all the way of life that we actually had. And Swami says people say one thing and they don't follow the same thing, that like what Swami also talked in Cheppinattu Chestara, the drama that he played in his childhood. So Swami says they actually advise renunciation, but they actually aspire for a sense of themselves, and they actually glorify morality, but they are actually perpetrating hatred. So Swami says this actually destroys the very spirit of renunciation, and all those people actually move towards doom. And Swami also says about the thought-word coordination, how words and deeds are not coordinated, then there is absolutely no truth in that. Then Swami says, householders do hold on to truth more or less tenaciously. There are among them many who are devoid of hate, who are of pure, unsullied hearts, and who tread the path of morality and virtue. But we find that the renunciants and the yogis who parade as such are full of all possible types of hatred and all manifestations of desire. They fall into the pit that these manifestations dig to trap them. Egoism, envy, exhibitionism, these bring an end to all the efforts of the spiritual aspirant. Therefore, seekers and devotees must be ever vigilant and keep away from these undesirable traits. They must try to grow in the contemplation of the glory of the Lord and in the practice of morality, eagerly striving to experience the real bliss of attainment. Then, this bliss has to be shared with the world. That will inaugurate world peace and world prosperity. So here Swami says, Swami talks about householders who actually do their duties, like just what he mentioned. Like normally, people who perform their duties, there are many people who are not actually filled with hatred, and people who are actually pure, and people who are actually spiritually ahead of others, even without realizing it, because they are attuned to that kind of a life, and they just follow that without any question. So Swami says that it is such an irony that people who claim to be realized and people who are actually claim to be yogis, they are full of all types of hatred and attachments and all kind of desires, but actually the householders are better than them. And Swami says devotees and seekers should actually be aware of such people and such kind of behaviors that they exhibit, and they should stay away from these things. And Swami says constant contemplation of God, again what T.G. Uncle also emphasizes, constant contemplation of God and love for God and morality, the practice of morality, and just working for the sake of that, the culture and the morality, that is what will bring us the real attainment. And Swami says that kind of an ananda, the bliss, should be shared with the world. So this is how we go about to achieve world peace and world prosperity. So Krishna was referring to such real wise people when he said that the world will shine in splendor through wise people. A person without wisdom is like a home without light. So again, Swami says how people who are actually wise are the people who will actually bring back the re-establish dharma, and they will be the people who will shine in the world. And Swami compares a home without a light is like a person who has no wisdom. Then that is the end of chapter 13, Sairam. So chapter 14 has 5 topics. So here we have objective and integral knowledge, the 2 types of knowledge that Swami talks about, and we go into introduction to these concepts, which is Brahman. The Brahman is the supreme spirit, action, the material creation, tutelary deities, and the Lord of sacrifice. And then we go into the meaning of Brahman, and then Brahman as the existence, knowledge, bliss. So these are the 5 topics that we have in chapter 14. Let's look at the first topic alone, Sairam. So here Swami talks about the verse, Nahi Jnanena Sadrisham Pavitra-miha vidyate tatsvayam yoga sansiddha kalenatmani vindati. So here Swami talks about the word by word meaning is na is not, he is certainly, Jnanena is without the knowledge, that is with knowledge, Nahi Jnanena is not without divine knowledge, Sadrisham is like, Pavitram is again pure, Iha is here, that is in this world, Vidyate is it exists, Tat is that, and Swayam is by oneself, Yoga is yoga, and the Sansiddha is one who has attained perfection, and the Kalena is in due course of time, Atmani is within the heart or by oneself, Vindati is finds. So Swami says that there is nothing as purifying as divine knowledge. One who has attained the purity of mind through prolonged practice of yoga receives such knowledge within their heart in due course of time. So this is the shloka that Swami talks about, and here first topic is objective and integral knowledge. So Swami says there is nothing equal to wisdom. So nahi jnanene sadrisham. So what is wisdom? That which makes you cross the sea of change or samsara. of course, the wisdom is of two kinds. One is objective knowledge, Vishaya Jnana, and integral spiritual knowledge or Abheda Jnana. The first type of knowledge is the knowledge of the world, and the second is the knowledge of the identity of Brahman and the individual Atma, which is called undifferentiated or integral Abheda wisdom. This wisdom is not a function of the intellect or the buddhi, it is a feature of something beyond it, something that witnesses the activities of even the intellect. It destroys the delusion about this constant flux, which is mistaken to be a reality. It removes fear from the heart. It reveals to people the Brahman that they and all this is. So it is called the right Samyak wisdom, the near Samipa wisdom. So Swami says that again, Swami talks about how there are two types of wisdom. One is the Vishaya Jnana or the technical knowledge of the world, that is the objective knowledge. And the second one is the integral spiritual knowledge or Abheda Jnana. So Swami says the first type of knowledge is like normal education that we learn from schools and colleges and in our life during work and all those things. The second kind of knowledge is the knowledge about the Brahman and the Atma. So Swami says that this kind of wisdom is not even related to the intellect or the buddhi, but it is a feature of something that is beyond it. So it is Atmic knowledge. So Swami says that it will destroy the delusion about the samsara or the world that is constantly in flux, or it is something that is impermanent, but which we all mistakenly believe to be permanent. And Swami says that this kind of knowledge will remove the fear from the heart, and it will reveal the people the Brahman, and that is the actual kind of the knowledge that we actually have to aspire for. Then Swami says there are two paths by which people can approach this integral knowledge: the inner and the outer. The outer spiritual discipline is engagement in activity without attachment. That is nishkama karma, dedicating the result of activities to the Lord. The inner spiritual discipline is meditation and total absorption, samadhi. In Vedantic terminology, this is inner concentration, nididhyasana. Listen and meditate on what you have listened to. These two steps are the basis of this inner concentration. Without these, meditation is impossible to achieve. So here Swami talks about two ways of achieving this kind of Abheda Jnana. The first is the inner path, and the second is the outer path. So the outer path is just spiritual discipline, that is nishkama karma, or the like attached fruit, without attachment to the fruit, performing one's own duty, that Swami often talks about in Gita in multiple instances, and dedicating the results only to the Lord. The second kind of discipline is the inner discipline, or it is known as the samadhi or the mental absorption. So in Vedanta, this is referred to as nididhyasana or the inner concentration. So what Swami talks about in this is we have to listen to spiritual discourses, and we have to listen or read materials, and then we have to meditate on that content. So basically what we are doing right now, the same thing. So this is without this, meditation is impossible. So this is the meaning of what is called control of the senses: detachment from the outer sensory world, withdrawal of the mind from the outer world. This is the goal of life: knowing the highest Atma, attaining liberation. There can be no second aim for people. People are endowed with life not to build bungalows, acquire estates, accumulate wealth, and add progeny, earn titles, or ascend to higher rungs of social life. Their greatness does not depend on these. The chief success in life lies in winning permanent bliss, permanent escape from grief and agitation. So here Swami talks about how we have to control the senses, and we have to detach from the outer world. And Swami says that is the goal of life, which is attaining liberation and knowing about the Supreme Atma. And people think that we have to achieve more in life, we have to go to this position, we have to get this kind of a job, then we have to have this kind of a family, and we have to, even people think of those things as their goals, but that is not the actual goal. So the only success in life can be like measured when we have the permanent bliss, and we are completely still in our life. So that's what Swami says. And Swami says, listen, O children of immortality all over the world, Shravantu Vishve Amritasya Putraha is the call, the invitation. The heritage of immortality must be recognized and experienced. It must be won back. The bonds of name and form must be removed. They are but bonds made of dream stuff. They are changeable and temporary. They are not genuine natural characteristics of the soul. So here Swami talks about this is from the Upanishads. So Swami talks about the like a clarion call. Shravantu Vishwe Amritasya Putraha. Listen, you children of immortality all over the world. So he says that the heritage of immortality must be recognized and it must be won back. So the concept of Amritatva is what Swami talks about here. So Swami says that the name and the form which we talked about in the previous chapter, in the 13th chapter, so those kind of bonds should be removed and that kind of limitation should be overcome. And Swami says that those are just made of your own mind and they are not actually, they don't actually exist. And these are changeable and temporary. So here Swami says, they are not the actual characteristics of the soul or the Jivatma. And Swami says, real wisdom consists in recognizing that one is pure bliss. Bliss that persists from the past into the present and the future. Escape from grief for a brief period of time and the attainment of joy for a short time. These are not signs of real liberation. If you seek this steady, genuine, pure state of bliss, you must be attached to me, said Krishna. So here Swami says that the highest real wisdom can be known by recognizing that one is just bliss. We are just the Ananda or Ananda Swarupas that Swami talks about. And if we are able to actually attain this kind of a bliss, then that is the real, the true attainment in life. And Swami says just temporarily moving away from grief and for a short period of time attaining that joy, that is not actual liberation. And Swami says, if we want to achieve that, then you must be attached to me completely. Then Swami says, Arjuna, whoever does spiritual practice after attaching himself to me with a view to liberate himself from old age and senility, will know all that is to be known of Brahman, Karma and Atma. I am the master of material creation, Adi Bhuta, the presiding deities, Adi Daiva, and that which pertains to sacrifice, Adi Yajna. And if I am thus worshipped, the worshipper will develop equanimity and full control of the vagaries of the mind. Besides, such a person will dwell on me without forgetting me even in the last moment. For that reason, such a person will reach me. That is to say, such a person will merge in me. So here Swami talks about how to be liberated from old age and senility and all those the physical aspects that come to us with age. So Swami says that he will know that such a person will know that Swami is the supreme master. He's the master of creation and he's the master of all the deities and he's also the master of sacrifice. So Swami says if he's worshipped as such, then the worshipper will actually develop equanimity that he talked about and he will have the full control of the senses and full control of the mind. And even in the last moment, they will be able to contemplate on God and they will reach God. So such person will merge in them. So Swami concludes the first topic with this. Sairam, for the rest of the chapters and the rest 4 topics we'll cover in the next week. If we have anything to discuss, we can have a discussion, Sairam. Sairam, if there is nothing to discuss, I think I can conclude with Om and 3 Shantis.
Actually, Sai Swarup,
Yes, Uncle Sairam.
this Shravantu Vishwe Amritasya Putraha is very much on the lines of Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam.
True, Uncle, yeah.
Urvarugam Bandhanat Mrityor Mukshiya Ma Amritat.
Yes, yes.
So that is the Amritasya Putra he is referring to.
Yes, the concept of immortality, uncle. How we have to remain immortal, and Swami talks about how constant contemplation will get rid of that instability in our life, so that we can remain immortal. And again, even in the Triambakam Yajamahe, the same thing. We are actually praying to Lord Shiva, and he gives us the release from life, but he does not ma amrita, like not from immortality, is what we talk about there. Again, same thing.
Yeah, the prayer is that we don't get separated from immortality.
Yes, very good point. Maybe I'll include it during next week's presentation. Uncle.
Thank you.
Sai Ram, uncle.
Sai Ram.
May I conclude for today?
Sure.
Okay. Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sai Ram, everyone.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, auntie. Sai Ram, uncle.
Sai Ram, everyone.